We're back. Perfect break, man. We're back. Talk more some basketball, man. First discussion was pretty good, but let's switch it over to the Western side of things now. So as you know, the Suns in particular have been playing very well, right? Better than last season, despite the bubble. We all know what they did in the bubble, what they're capable of, but they came into this season and even outperformed that. Shout out to Chris Paul or Devin Booker. So that's the question I got to pose to you guys. Who deserves most of the credit for the Suns' success? And I'll pose this to you, Chris.
For me, it's the guy that they added. And the guy that they added is Chris Paul. And what we do know about Chris Paul is wherever he goes, he wins, right? He may not win the ultimate prize just because of his stature at the end of the day. But when we're talking about regular season ball, regular season play, Chris Paul wins, period. And where he goes, he brings a certain type of playing style, a certain type of attitude that gets indoctrinated throughout the entire roster. And to me, that's what we're seeing right now with the Suns. Like, we're seeing a gritty team. We're seeing a team that's coming up in the clutch. And that is because of Chris Paul. Like, that is what he's made of. Yes, they have other players like Bridges that are taking a step forward. But in saying that, you also have other players like Booker who took a slight step back. Ayton took a slight step back. So to me, it's just like the only guy I'm giving, I'm going to give 80% of the credit to Chris Paul because I know who Chris Paul is. And the moment he came on the roster, he's winning. Yes, they had a 8-0 record in the bubble. But in order for me to actually buy that, you would have to tell me now that Ricky Rubio can get them to where they are right now. And if you're not saying that, then I'm going to give it to Chris Paul.
Listen, anyone that listens to this podcast knows I'm the Chris Paul guy. When they told me he was washed, I told you he wasn't. And it's no different now. Devin Booker has been great his entire career, but as good as he's been, he has not been able to get them anywhere close to the playoffs. Don't talk to me about a bubble. I don't care. 9 games does not prove anything in the NBA. And we're not going to talk about the bubble as if it was some separate season. It was still 2019, still 2020. The Suns in 2019-2020 started the year 6-3. And by the time the bubble was done, they were 25-39. So I don't care about hot starts. I don't care about a hot month. What I know is you added Chris Paul and this team got better. So he's not the only reason why they're winning, but he is the reason why they're much better than they were a year ago. And I don't care about Jay Crowder, whoever else you want to talk to me about. It's strictly Chris Paul. He's made it a point. He's proven now. Hornets, Clippers, Houston, OKC, and now the Suns. He's the only common denominator. There's no one else.
I think Chris Paul's leadership is the primary factor for the Suns being where they are. With that being said, Atlanta and Phoenix, Atlanta is the opposite side where I said in the first half, like they have so many guys, but they don't seem to fit or mesh. And the problem with Atlanta is lack of leadership. Whereas in Phoenix, they have like 12 dudes that can hoop. Like Abdel Nader is like having like a career season. They have a ton of guys on their bench that are fighting for minutes, fighting for playing time. That's how a team falls apart, right? And Chris Paul being there and being a leader and bringing that vet mentality of like, you got to do what you have to do for the betterment of the team. If they didn't have that kind of presence, I think that this team would be a lot more dysfunctional because this is a business. Guys are competing for livelihood. And for them to put aside egos and to come together and build something, I think it speaks volumes to who Chris Paul is as a leader. And Monty Williams, but specifically Chris Paul.
Me personally, I'm always about the bucket, so I'm gonna give it a split. I'm gonna say 70-30, just because I know what Chris Paul brings, right? Like, obviously, I think he proved that last season in OKC. That team had no business being near the playoff hunts, and somehow they were positioned right in the middle of it. Like, I think they were 5th seed, if I'm not mistaken. With no faults or anything like that, no major injuries, just Chris Paul coming to the team and giving it life, bringing them to where they want to go. So I'll give him 7% of the credit, but like, his numbers aren't gaudy. He's not putting up the popcorn numbers. And again, he may not have to for the team to succeed, but someone has to. And I feel like with Booker doing what he's doing, although it's a bit of a step back from the year before, he still is putting up pretty decent numbers, if not great numbers. And then Ayton's doing some of the heavy lifting. Mikal Bridges is obviously taking a step forward. So I do want to attribute some of the success to those guys as well. But I'm gonna give 70% of the credit to Chris Paul because Chris Paul is who he is. Like we know, we've seen this. He's done it year after year. He's making guys better around him. Like it's not hard to give him the credit that he deserves, but you still gotta acknowledge there's 4 other mans on the roster that are playing a lot better or doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of a statistical point.
Yeah, I don't think he's definitely not out there by himself, right? He has talent around him. It's just, I think when the opposition goes on a 10-0 run, right, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you look to the side and Chris Paul's cool, like, it's that confidence that he's instilling in guys because he knows how to win games. And you can't quantify that, which is why his numbers aren't going to look great. But if you pay attention to the game and if you watch the game long enough, you know that there's something there. And as you said, Mikal Bridges, he's guarding the best player on the court. He's taking a step. He's shooting over 50% from the field, over 40 from deep. You have Aiden, who's not scoring as much, but he's doing his thing on the glass. And Booker, we know he's a bucket, right? But it's that confidence that he instills. You can't get that in other places. And as Armand referenced with the Hawks, like, again, they're in similar situations, but Trey hasn't gotten to the point in his career where he can instill that confidence in his teammates. And nor should he, right? He's, year 3? So it's just... And I think we were kind of looking to Rondo to be that guy, but he's obviously not as talented as Chris Paul this late in his career. So it's all Chris Paul for me. Sorry to say. They do play well, but I just look at this team. If you remove Chris Paul, as Chris said, and you put Ricky Rubio on that team, they're right back where they were last year, pre-bubble.
I agree.